a call for action and fight for change.
We will not be silenced.
Community members and leaders made their voices heard in front of Allentown City Hall Monday afternoon.
Just to think that people have to go to work in fear for their lives.
Since Friday, Allentown police continue to investigate an item resembling a noose found on a city employee's desk.
This egregious act is not just an affront to one individual, but it is an attack on the entire community.
Josie Lopez is a close friend of the victim.
They're always a community leader, always pushing for equality. They might be bruised right now, but they are not broken.
The victim is not being named due to safety concerns.
Our colleague was threatened. This was an act of terror. This was a hate crime.
An Allentown city worker claimed that she found a rope tied like a noose on her desk at work. It sparked an FBI investigation as people wondered if this was a hate crime. Now investigators say the worker staged the whole thing. Police say it took intricate DNA testing to solve this case in their mind.
Downtown police detailed exactly how they determined that this reported crime wasn't a crime after all.
A Douglas County woman accused of infecting fear into the hearts of her neighbors is expected to turn herself in this week. Investigators say Teresa Lucas wrote and placed threatening notes into multiple mailboxes. The letters claim to be from a white male member of the Ku Klux Klan. Police found evidence that linked Lucas to what was going on, and she's now facing 8 months of making terroristic threats, 8 counts.
A racial slur painted on Yemi Mobolade's campaign is now at the center of a bias-motivated crime investigation tonight. Some of the video in this story might be difficult to watch.
This type of hate, this type of bigotry has to be rooted out, stamped out, and addressed, and that person should be held accountable because the next time it could be someone's life. It's 2023. It is not 1943. This type of hate doesn't exist and it shouldn't be tolerated at all.
That the person who did this is found and arrested and that Yemi is kept safe.
This needs to be the first, only, and last warning that we ever see in the history of the state on this type of behavior.
Colorado Springs Mayor Yemi Mobolade says he did not lie to the FBI when they interviewed him about an alleged hate crime hoax. In November, 3 suspects were indicted on charges related to faking that hate crime last year by vandalizing a Mobolade campaign sign with a racial slur and burning a cross in front of it. Fox 31's Austin Sack has the mayor's reaction and why he is breaking his silence now.
Abby, the mayor says he previously chose not to address the rumors because there is an active investigation into these allegations. The mayor spoke with his legal counsel so he does not unintentionally jeopardize the investigation, and after much public pressure, Mobolade wants to share his side of the story.
I did not lie to the FBI. False claims have circulated about my involvement and have been amplified by a small group of politically motivated individuals. The rumors have become so ridiculous.
Last month, 3 suspects were indicted on charges related to the alleged hoax. Arrest papers say Mobolade had been in contact with Derek Bernard, one of the 3 accused of staging the hate crime. Right-wing media site The Daily Wire reported soon after the FBI referred Mobolade for prosecution for making false statements, but the Department of Justice refused to pursue it for racial and political reasons. They cited an unnamed FBI source.
I've been a prosecutor for a couple minutes now. I cannot think of a reason why those communications from the mayor to the killer hoaxer would have any negative impact on the case against the killer hoaxer guy.
We used to look up to the Davids who took down the Goliaths. Now we elevate anyone who says they were crushed by him. We've traded courage for clout, more than a conqueror for being conquered. And in this new moral economy, victimhood is currency. It doesn't matter if the story is exaggerated or even if it's flat out false, as long as it feels like it's true. And as long as it props up the left's narrative, it gets rewarded. That's how we ended up with media outlets and celebrities rallying around a grown man named Jussie Smollett, who claimed 2 Trump supporters hunted him down with bleach and a noose in downtown Chicago at 2 a.m. on basically the coldest night ever, a polar vortex. This story made no sense, and it didn't need to be true. It just needed the perfect victim, Black, gay, and a male, to fulfill its intersectionality identity requirements to reinforce that idea that America is still racist, violent, and just as oppressive as it was in 1885. We live in a culture that doesn't just tolerate lies, they create them out of pure fantasy, using the mainstream media as its propaganda tool, and plays it on a loop across America to indoctrinate the masses on massive levels. Because without these fake stories, the whole illusion starts to collapse. And then we'd have to face the truth that while no country is perfect, we're not nearly as divided, hateful, or systematically oppressive as we're being told. What's up, everybody? I'm Quisha King. Welcome to the Quisha King Show. Here we have even another hate crime hoax that just makes this even the more disturbing, because it doesn't look like the left is quitting anytime soon. They just keep on going with this race narrative that Americans have rejected time and time again. But let's look into this newest one. A Pennsylvania city worker accused of staging a hate crime hoax after allegedly planting a noose at her own desk. I mean, really, you would think that if the racism is so bad, why would Black Americans want to further terrify Black people? Why would they want to scare them more? If this was a real thing, you wouldn't be trying to put this onto Black people. And that should make you question what kind of person, knowing the fear that Black Americans already have, what kind of person would perpetuate that fear fakely? Like, why would you make up the story if you cared so much about this thing? That's how you know this is bogus. A Pennsylvania city worker was accused Monday of staging a fake, quote, hate crime after she allegedly planted a noose at her own desk, according to police. Allentown City Hall employee LaTarsha Brown was charged with a pair of criminal counts after DNA pulled from the noose only belonged to her, authorities said, though one of her pals claims she's innocent. Brown initially said she made the shocking discovery at her desk on January 10th when she arrived for work, leading to an investigation and a community protest, a whole protest over a lie. That is how you know Black people still haven't learned their lesson. We still haven't learned that people just make stuff up. So you got this story right here. This story from Business Insider. Georgia police said a Black woman posed as KKK and sent her neighbors threats to burn down their homes and kill them. Why are people trying to make this a thing? Why are you trying to make white supremacy trend? Why are you trying to make white supremacy, KKK? What are the Black people trying to make, white supremacy, racism, the trendy thing to do? Why are Black people doing this? This is whack. You look crazy. Tarisha Lucas, 30, pretended to be a white Ku Klux Klan member and sent death threats to her neighbors, said Georgia police. She allegedly placed notes in residents' mailboxes on 6 occasions, threatening to kill them and their children and burn their homes. Yo, this is wicked. These people are wicked. Lucas described herself as a 6-foot-tall white man with a long red beard, according to a police statement. A Black woman in Georgia who claimed to be a white man. Yeah, they done transed the KKK. A Black woman in Georgia who claimed to be a KKK member, who claimed to be a white male member of the Ku Klux Klan, has been charged with making terrorist threats to her neighbors, according to police. Tarisha Lucas, 30, is accused of placing notes in the mailboxes of residents in the Brookmont neighborhood of Douglasville on at least 6 occasions, saying she would burn down their homes and kill them, per a statement by the local police department published last Thursday. Lucas's first notes were just a few days before Christmas. The notes threatened to burn their houses down and kill them, and that said they didn't belong in the neighborhood, said Detective Nathan Shoemaker, one of the two investigators on the case. Lucas later placed similar notes 4 more times in the residents' mailboxes throughout February and March. Meanwhile, Detective Shoemaker and Andre Futch worked the case by checking doorbell cameras and gathering information from residents. By mid-March, we really didn't have anything to go on, said Shoemaker. They had a breakthrough in the case when Lucas placed another note on Labor Day, September 6th. The detectives found evidence linking the note to Lucas's house, though they didn't specify what the evidence was. The detectives obtained a search warrant and found more evidence that ties Lucas to the notes. The statement added that Lucas was expected to turn herself in, but has since given no further updates on the case. Like, if it's that bad, you wouldn't have to make it up. Oh yeah, and remember this was a sitting state rep. This is in 2019. No charges in grocery store dispute between Black Georgia lawmaker and a white man. Police said they will not file any charges. They will not file any charges in the dispute between a Black Georgia lawmaker and a white man she accused of verbally assaulting her for having too many items in a grocery checkout line. She probably did. In a widely shared Facebook video, a tearful state rep, Erica Thomas, accused a man later identified as Eric Sparks of racism. Thomas, who is 9 months pregnant, said he told her, "You need to go back where you came from." This dispute happened Friday at a Publix grocery store in Mapletown, in Mapletown, Georgia. Her video went viral on Twitter along with the hashtag I stand with Erica. Thomas later wrote that she was, quote, verbally assaulted in a grocery store by a white man. Look at her. Look at this. Oh, the victimhood. Let me be a victim because by being a victim, I can be a hero. Why would you want to be a hero when you can be a victim instead? Heroes don't make the news these days. What we talking about? Being a hero. Don't nobody. That's old. It's the victim is where you want to be. Okay? Totally going against what God says about you. Again, y'all know I've talked about this many times. The left wants you to be a victim, wants you to be oppressed when the Bible says you're more than a conqueror. When the Bible says, if I be for you, who can be against you? You cannot be a Christian and be for this stuff. So Sparks admitted cursing at the Democratic lawmaker from Austell, but said he didn't tell her to, quote, go back from where you came. Well, let's see what actually happened. So in the end, the police, but he did admit to call her a lazy bee for using the express checkout lane. After a thorough investigation, both parties have been advised there will be no charges made by the Cobb County Police Department. The police report cites 2 Publix employees, neither of whom confirmed the full events as described by Thomas or Sparks. They told police they either did not remember or did not hear the whole argument, which that to me is even questionable because just the way things are these days. But this is what I'm saying, like, instead of people don't want to be actual heroes. They prefer to be a victim and run to the camera as soon as they find anything that can try to prove this fake narrative that America is just so racist. So I was watching this interview with Wilfred Reilly, who he was on trigonometry. He wrote this book about hate crimes and how all these people are doing these fake hate crimes and they just turn out to be, it's just utterly ridiculous. What he actually found was that despite objective improvements in race relations, like 94% of Americans approving of interracial marriage, perceptions have gotten drastically worse, especially since the rise of social media and BLM narratives. Reilly points to a Pew data showing that in the 1990s, 70% of Black Americans thought race relations were good. Now that number has dropped by more than half, even though society has become more tolerant, even in practice, meaning your everyday life, at the grocery store, when you're pumping gas, when you go to work, when you have interactions with your neighbors, you pretty much don't care about what they look like. This is not a thing. But the media pushes completely different narratives. Now, let's see. Now, why would the media, and this is predominantly coming from the left, so I don't want to hear any, this is a narrative that comes from the left. Why would they want to do this? What benefit does the left get out of making society feel like there's more victims, more white supremacy, systemic racism, all the things? What benefit do they get out of making Black Americans feel like victims? Control. Control through division. This is a common tactic of communists. I know I talk about communism all the time, and sometimes you can talk about something so much that it seems like but this is what they do. This is the plan. And so even the hoaxes where I think it was like the white lady who called the police, or the guy looking at the birds or whatever, or like different, the Karens and stuff like that. A lot of times they are both people involved are part of the communist thing. They don't just attack one side. This is where you get it twisted. This is where conservatives can get it wrong, and this is where Black people can get it, I'm sorry, the left can get it wrong. When you think, okay, well, when you see it on this side that you don't like, that is probably true. No. The left, the communists, the progressives, they don't care what side. They care about the narrative. So they will, this is what what's that man, oh God, Saul Alinsky. This is what Saul Alinsky used to teach. Okay, but this is long communist tactic history. Like, this ain't even nothing new. It wasn't new for him, and it's just they have just been perfecting it over time. They play both sides. They did this during the Civil Rights Acts as well. They would have people stage on like the KKK side, and they would have people stage on the civil rights side, and they would go against each other. They train on how to take a blow. Okay, they train on how to throw a rock and hide your hand. This is when Patrisse Cullors said we are trained Marxists. This is part of the training she's talking about. So they want to use this to control. They divide through control. Power without accountability. Okay. Victimhood grants moral authority, because notice how everybody who's claiming all these victimhood, you get elevated. And so, like, I'm a victim, so therefore I can speak on this. You can silence opposition, you can dismiss facts, and still claim the moral high ground. When activists or politicians claim victim status, they don't need to prove anything. They just accuse. And in today's culture, accusation equals conviction. This is it's like a shortcut to power without you having to earn it. Oh, I'm a victim, power. Poof, power. A perpetual revolution. The communists, they are never going to stop advancing towards their communist revolution. But they can't do that if they don't have a victim to have a divide. They have to find somebody to point the finger at. These social managers, social engineers, they need problems to solve. Real or imagined, they don't care. They don't care if it's fake. They needed to justify their existence. They'll create a problem, come up with a solution to solve the problem. Oh, look, more communism is what we need. If they fix racism, then what do we have? Oh, that doggone systemic bias. The whole system is racist. Oh, we got to tear that down. And how long is that going to take? I mean, this could go on for centuries. If we fix inequality, but then there's the gaps. There's the gaps you see. Like, for instance, take the the infant mortality rate, right? So they'll say, oh, Black women have 4 times the infant mortality rate than white women, which is true. And this is what Wilfred Reilly accurately states this.
USA. So the way racism is determined, quote unquote, in these studies is that you'll basically just point to a gap. Infant mortality recently came up. So you'll say that African-American women have 4 times the infant mortality rate of Caucasian women, which is true in some years. But I mean, what's not pointed out is that the rate for Caucasian women is, 99.8 survival of healthy babies over 1 year. And the rate for Black women is 99.2% survival of healthy babies or something like that. That's the first point. But going beyond that, there really is not much evidence that prejudice is the cause of that. I mean, you could look at a whole bunch of things: Southern culture, obesity, drug use, although whites are certainly catching up on some of these metrics.
So it's like a 0.4%. So yeah, or whatever I don't know. It's a tiny percent, but there's a gap. And we're going to exploit the hell out of that gap. We're going to put fear. Think about how evil that is. We're going to put fear in the hearts and minds of Black women when they're pregnant at one of the most vulnerable times in a woman's life. We're going to instill fear in her to make her think, oh, when she goes to the hospital, her life is going to be more in danger because of some racist white person. This is sick. Let's not forget the money. You get loads of money if you can claim yourself to be a victim, especially if you fall into the lower of the intersectionality. If you are Black, trans, woman, whatever, you're going to get pizzed. Okay, not to mention the DEI consultants, all of these programs and stuff that have been created behind victimhood. So that's one heck of an incentive to keep this thing going. And lastly, the last reason why the left, the communists, benefit off of people being victims is that victims are not free thinkers. Victims, you can manipulate their mind. They want to reprogram society. Strong, free-thinking individuals are dangerous. Victims, however, are much more vulnerable and easier to control. That is it for now, everyone. Let me know what you think about what I think in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and interacting with you and engaging with you. I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.